Okay, thank you very much for joining me. The program is Roseonallsides. My name is Rose Peter Greer. The Supreme Court of Nigeria has dismissed the case of the People's Democratic Party and our presidential candidate, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. And that is the case against the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari. So the 7-man panel unanimously agreed with the no-case submission of President Muhammadu Buhari. I don't like that picture, honestly. If you keep showing the former vice president as though he was crying, when people depict him like that. He actually cried when he saw the amount of support he had, and then people then... So that is why if you're a public figure, you should just mind your reaction in public, because people will misinterpret it. If you're doing a particular thing and you want to gain certain favors, and now you just played into their hands. And that was one of the things that worked against the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, because he had a lot of pictures like that. Okay, so with me today is Olufemi, of the DG Nigerian Institute, and of course Fatai Oguribido, a journalist and a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining me.
Nice to see you.
Thank you,
Rose. Okay, so with the Supreme Court's decision, what is next for the candidates of the PDP?
Who do you want to ask first?
You could go ahead first. With this decision this week, so what do you think is next for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar?
Well, it'll be a good time for him to reflect on that decision, and also to think seriously about what he's going to do in terms of the future, and in terms of his stance in Nigerian politics. Not that my advice would carry any weight. I would advise that he should now elevate to the state of senior statesman, and not try to look at 2023. There's an idea that he's possibly going to look again at 2023. I think that would be a big mistake. I think Nigeria, at the stage we are at now, we want to move beyond these elder statesmen as our leaders. We need a young, energetic, vibrant, intellectual, youthful leader now to take the mantle in 2023. And anyone who's thinking in that respect needs to start doing the groundwork now. So I would think that, it's obviously within Atiku's right to go for election if he wants. Every Nigerian has the right to put himself forward for election. He can do so, but I think that would be a big mistake, and I think the electorate will not countenance. He's been rejected so many times. Of course, you could say Buhari was rejected in equal manner, but I think he's not getting any younger. Another 4 years down the line, it's going to be very difficult to sustain the momentum that they had in the 2019 elections. And the right thing to do would actually be for them to now start pulling the reins for a younger person to come in.
Okay, so let's hear from you for time.
Well, with the judgment that was passed during the week, the curtain already is drawn now. So because Supreme Court has spoken, and there is no going forward. And I've seen lots and lots of tips and theses that after Supreme Court, maybe he has to go to lawn tennis court. He has to a lot of jokes.
I haven't seen
Nigerians are bad.
Yes, I've seen that.
So you see, let's be serious.
Or even the International Court of Human Rights.
Okay.
We have to be realistic about Nigeria. Nobody can say they love Nigeria more than I do. Because I love Nigeria. That is, if you are able to understand the weight that name carries in the world, and you know the respect that it commands, and the knowledge that country has imparted into the world, culturally, educationally, in so many aspects of life, Nigeria is a real icon in the world. But what have we seen what have we seen today? 60 years of independence. This is not where the country should be. So what I mean by that is that my own opinion, Nigeria is not real. When Femi was speaking about Atiku, going back on reflection, being an elder statesman, and he has now to be thinking about pushing younger generations. But the point is this going to be possible? The cabal that has hijacked Nigeria for the past 55 years,
yes,
are they going to give way to younger generations? Those who are their masters, outside of Nigeria, the colonial masters who are using them for their economic purpose, are they going to give up? Because they know if they give up, definitely they are going to be losers in Nigeria.
Okay.
Nigeria is under serious conspiracy, and we should not be deceived. This election...
Do you think this is why the Supreme Court had to deal with this matter swiftly, unanimously? It was discussed less than 1 hour. And of course, what does this tell us? Because it was as if the case was just thrown out.
Let me tell you something. The day Onogen was taken off his seat, that was the day the election had been won. I mean, that was the day the judgment had been won.
You meant Onogen?
Because oh yes. Now, because all this elections issue has been premeditated. If you go back to 2015, if you see the level of blackmailing, demonization of names, that APC went in making sure that power goes back to those who said they were born to rule, you will have the notion that definitely Nigeria is not real. Why do we have to? The only thing that can sustain Nigeria is when we speak the truth and the entire world knows the truth. We can't be hiding from the truth. I think that we are going to attain greatness in Nigeria.
Of course, I know you would like to respond to that, but I would still like to leave it on the surface or within the Supreme Court's decision.
I know. That's what I'm trying to make.
Because I'm wondering why the issue was dealt with swiftly.
Well, you know, we talk about a case having merit, okay? And these are the lordships. They're not silly people. They're very serious-minded people. And on the face of it, looking at, I mean, Fatai has mentioned Onoge, and I do agree that that has a factor, because obviously my view is that if Onoge had stayed in place, we would be seeing a different result now. But the reality is, the facts on the ground showed, and we all witnessed the appeal court when they spoke on the decision and the facts that came out, showed that there was barely any merit in the appeal.
That is by the judgment of those who sat there and judging the case. They don't want to pick out of the points.
We don't want to re-go over the case, as it were. Okay. The judgment is now done. My view is that anyone who rationally looks at what was said cannot see any validity in the case that Atiku brought forward. You know, you're talking about how many polling booths were discrepancies, how many states would you have to prove. He would have had to go out there and do a yeoman's job to find that evidence. And since they didn't do that, and then the evidence that they brought forward was so shabby and so fraught with irregularity that it just couldn't stand up. So at the end of the day, their lordships had no choice but to throw the matter out. So what I'm saying is that is by the by. You know, there's no other recourse for Mr. Atiku. And it showed, and Fatai talked about 2015 and people born to rule. We live in a democracy in Nigeria. And we also, in a very peculiar kind of democracy, where we have a kind of North and South rotational presidency. Okay, it's not legally bounded in any kind of law or anything like that.
Yes, it isn't.
But that is the way it is. And then for us to try to pretend that that isn't the reality.
Yes.
And then the other thing as well is that prior to 2015, all the elections, as far as I'm concerned, were based on a situation where PDP had no viable alternative. There were no viable oppositions. They were all fragmented and divided. So in 2015, there was amalgamation of ABGA, PDP, DCAMPs, and ACN, or whatever they were called then. So they all came to form APC. That created a formidable opposition to PDP. And that was why they won. Do you understand? I mean, of course, the elections were not all perfect, and never is there a perfect election. So then we had a situation in 2019, we had to see whether the people wanted to go back to PDP or whether they wanted to give Buhari a second chance.
What you're saying is that PDP might not be able to put the house in order before the next election.
The truth of the matter is, my view is that PDP right now needs to go back to the drawing board. I think there's been quite quietness in PDP. They've not been an effective opposition, in my view. And we have a presidential system. It's not like the parliamentary system where you see them jousting all the time as you see them with this Brexit issue and this stalemate. We have a situation where we don't have the opportunity for stalemate. We actually have a situation where PDP can actually work hand in hand with the APC members on the National Assembly. They say they don't want any rubber stamp assembly, and take those elements out of the PDP manifesto that they think is good for Nigeria and convince the other parties to allow that to move forward. If what they're saying is correct, I'm sure that the other members of the party will bring it in.
Tell us, can Atiku still actualize his presidential ambition?
Well, that will be in his widest dream, because I don't foresee Atiku will be relevant come 2023. Number one, the age factor is there. Number two, that is...
He's going to be 76.
Well, as
And
Femi
President Muhammadu Buhari won his second.
as Femi has said earlier on,
He won this re-election at 76. Though whatever age
second
that.
term.
His second term election at 76. So, Atiku is going to be 76 in 2023.
Wow.
What are his chances?
let me explain something to you. I would not want to be drawn into a discussion whereby I be deceiving Nigerians or deceiving myself. As far as I'm concerned, as I'm speaking to you today, Nigeria is not real. The nation has been hijacked. Now, he was talking about APC, how it was formed. Now, and yet, go back to history now, 85% of those who made APC up came from PDP. So there is like a change, it's like an old wine, in new wine skin. So why do we have to be deceiving ourselves? Are you, how is, excuse me, let me, exaggeration, let's assume it's 55%.
Yes.
You agree to 55%?
I think they're less than 50%.
Oh, but then I can place you, I can place you politically now.
But what I'll say is, even if they were 35%, that's still significant. Do you understand? So I'm not saying that the PDP hasn't got an influence. It has. It definitely
But
has.
looking at the zoning issue, does it stand a chance? Because the Southwest and the Southeast believe it's their turn for 2023.
Let us even pray that
So,
Nigeria...
do you think he's going to railroad that unwritten constitution?
Let's keep praying that Nigeria sustains up to 2023.
Oh, Nigeria will
You
definitely.
seem to have a different opinion.
The reason is because I'm a realist. There are a lot of things I understand.
What's your opinion about that?
My view is that we've had Southwest with Obasanjo, we've had South with Jonathan. For me personally, it's time for the Southeast. They made a miscalculation in supporting Atiku, in my view, personally.
But the entire country can't support one man.
No, and what I'm saying is in terms of political miscalculation. You see, you need to be able to read the tea leaves and see the writing on the wall. And having seen that was... I think APC was going to win.
You cannot have a democracy without a proper opposition.
What I'm saying is, I'm not saying there shouldn't be opposition, but what they needed to do is not lump all the eggs in one basket. When the basket falls, all the eggs are cracked.
But the North and the West all had their caps in.
The reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm mentioning that is that because there are those, as he's talked about, the cabals and whatnot, are now saying, we shouldn't rotate it to the Southeast now because they didn't vote for APC. But to me, I think if we had a situation where the main political party... to be honest with you, in a meritocracy, we don't care where the president comes from, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But because of the situation
Which
that Nigeria...
what I just wish it should be.
Yeah, but the way that Nigeria is, and people are talking about being disillusioned, being... disenfranchised and ignored and so on and so forth.
Yes.
There's a necessity. Since 1960, apart from Zeke, who was like a ceremonial president, and the Ironzi, who became a president by accident. Not president, but commander-in-chief by accident. We've never had a Southeasterner president. And I think it's about time. I think it's overdue. But then we need a young, vibrant, energetic person from there to really push the nation forward.
You don't buy that idea.
They're not doing their work. And they're not doing their work. They need to start doing that work now.
We all belong to different school of thoughts.
Yes.
Rose, let me tell you something today. Obasanjo came from the southwest of the country. but it was never representing the interest of the Southwest. It represented the esprit de corps military gang that has hijacked Nigeria.
Yes.
And that's the reason why is the only choice they have. Those who are trying to pretend to us that they mean well for Nigeria, that is how they saw him as the right choice for them, because they are like it's like a mafia thing. So the same position that Southeast is today, that it has not presented a formidable leader for the nation, is the same situation that Southwest is. But people try to put this in because Obasanjo came from Southwest. Obasanjo didn't represent the interest of the Southwest. And even for the first regime that he had, 1999 to 2003, it was never voted for because people knew then that he was representing those who are just...
Beyond being representing, but then the South, hold on, Femi. During that time, the Southwest actually voted for, was it AD?
Yeah, it was a
Falai.
Yeah.
So they all went that way, that direction. And I guess maybe that is what the Southeast is doing this time around.
We must reflect on history. You know, everyone's got their own take on history.
Yes.
I mean, Obasanjo is correct in what he's saying, that he didn't toe the line of the Southwest, if you like.
No, but the Southwest, I remember vividly, they didn't vote for him then.
Because they represented them.
My point is
the same situation we are in the Southeast and Southwest.
My point is that although he was from the Southwest, and even if we get a president from the Southeast, I don't expect them to toe the line of the Southeast. Okay. He needs to be a nationalist and needs to focus on nationalist agenda.
That is where it should be.
So if Obasanjo didn't focus on the Southwest and focus on national agenda, I don't see anything wrong in that, in my eyes. But at the end of the day, and not only that, he didn't even have the support of the Southwest. So I don't see why Southwesterners should be complaining.
Now, how will you place... Now, my brother, how will you place the way Buhari has taken governance to the next level of
what?
His own immediate cronies being made into power?
I don't believe this idea that Buhari has been nepotistic in his outreach. I mean, the Constitution enables you to have ministers from 36 states. He has no choice.
So this time around, he has every reason to be nepotistic.
I don't
believe he was committed to nationalism. Is that what the point I'm
making? My view is, when you really do a critical analysis of the people, the ministers, and all that kind of stuff, it's not skewed the way that Fatai is saying. But it suits those in opposition to portray it that way because it suits their narrative. At the end of the day, Nigeria is bigger than that. And I think...
I want us to come back to the issue of the candidates of the PDP. And if you're just joining us, this is Roseonallsides, and we're talking about the decision the Supreme Court made, which of course did not favor the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. And it was like the entire party seems to be under some certain uncertainty, you know. So it's like they are lost for words. Because I've been listening to certain conversations from some of their frontliners, you know, private conversations, and it doesn't look as if these people
are convinced.
Maybe they would be able to put themselves together.
There'll be a revival.
There'll
be a revival.
But beyond that, I want to know now, the vice president, what do you think? Will he remain a force to be reckoned with in PDP politics? And especially in 2023, will he be a force to be reckoned with? We're talking about this blow that was dealt to him.
You mean
Atiku? Yes.
Let us be realistic. Why did people choose Atiku against Buhari? That is, why did PDP pick on Atiku? They saw Atiku as a fellow Fulani. And for that reason...
You're talking about the PDP?
I'm talking about PDP, yes. Because the PDP saw that the only way to fight Buhari was to be able to field somebody who actually came from the same geographical
that is true
expression. So, under a normal condition, I think we didn't have that image in Nigeria that will qualify him to lead PDP. But we were so drawn to that corner whereby Nigeria was in desperate need of a change. Even though the change didn't happen, simply because the cabal controlling us, who are behind the closed doors, controlling. Yes, you may not understand what I understand. That's why we belong to different schools. I'm trying to explain to you. We belong to different school of thought.
Okay.
And when I talk, I don't talk because I belong to anybody.
Is it the Kaduna Mafia?
Let me tell you, when it comes to power grabbing, North is one. So whether Kaduna Mafia or Katsina Mafia, or whether they are the Emirates controlling the military wing of the Arewa Keba. So something is happening in Nigeria that is uniquely Nigerian, which is the grabbing of power by a section of the country over the others, and subjecting the others, or subjugating the others, and subduing the others, the political resolve, political will, political vision, political planning, political, objectives. This is the issue. I'm not, let me tell you, I'm completely detribalized, and I'm completely, when you're talking about tribalism, I don't belong to it. People who know me know that my argument is based on my assessment of Nigeria. I've been in studying Nigerian politics, almost 36 years in Nigerian journalism. So I understand what I'm talking about.
But when you mention that those who feel they've been born to rule,
yes,
and who are you specifically identifying?
It is the reality about Nigeria that we are living in.
Are they Northerners or are they Nigerians in general? Because
let me tell you,
the political elite, in my view, who are supposedly born to rule, are not just Northerners. They are Easterners and they're Southwesterners.
Let me explain that to you. These are people who have the power at hand. And in every setting, either in a community or in a local government, there must be certain terryways who are, in quotes, let me refer to them as bastards. So these are people that are, let me explain to you, these are people that are brought in to break the back of those who they belong to. So there is divide and conquer sort of system operating in Nigeria. And that divide and conquer serve the interest of those they bring in. So this is the reason why in most cases you have a section of the people being bought with power and money, and there are people who should be down there. They push them up financially, give them the power to suppress those. That's the reason why Nigeria is right on its knees now. Realistically, I'm not saying this because I want to say it. This is how Nigeria has been running since the end of the Civil War. And that's the reason why anybody that comes to Nigeria that they want to be the head of state is always, unless they have the sanction of that cabal, they will never be there. And then if I may remind you, can you take a mind back to what Jonathan went through when Yar'Adua was in the hospital and he was being denied in active capacity because it's an abomination for a southerner to be up there. This is the reality about Nigeria.
So when you are now talking about the cabal, so the cabals are from the northern parts,
mostly drawing across to them. That's the reason why you saw what happened in the last election, because many of them.
This election.
No, the last election.
The last election. Okay. Now, because imagine for almost 55 years, you are being drawn closer as, part of the power brokers in the nation. And it has taken you almost 55 years to realize that you are being used against your own people. And I'm talking of OBJ. You understand me? OBJ was against him because the reality now came.
OBJ is destabilized.
That's the reason why, but he was destabilized. That's the reason why he was the best nationalist that we've ever had in Nigeria. But at the same time, at a certain stage came, he realized that immediately Tinubu now came to the fore. You understand me? They saw Tinubu as a bigger fish to be used against Southwest. This is the reason why OBJ was being insulted, because Tinubu is now in their net. This is the reality about Nigerian politics.
Okay.
I'm a bit confused. You see, to me, I don't believe in this conspiracy theory personally.
You don't think there's a conspiracy?
He doesn't believe in it.
I don't believe in this conspiracy.
And yet, that's why we are oscillating since 1960. No progress in Nigeria.
We can go into detail, and that'll be another program to discuss why we are where we are.
Anytime.
I must say you guys hijacked my discussion because I had a focus.
Yeah, that's
but I'm just going to give you 1 minute to conclude before we draw the program to a close. Go ahead.
Well, for me, the time now, as I've said before, is for people to look towards a new generation of energetic, young, vibrant, intellectual people to take over the reins of power. The elections 2019 is over now. The government that's in position now.
So someone like Atiku shouldn't even be considered anymore.
Atiku, to be honest with you, I think we and our generation, those coming behind us, we want leaders like the Kenyatta in Kenya, the president of Ghana, the president of Ethiopia.
That's our prayer.
We need people like that
Exactly.
everybody can be proud of.
But can that
I'm
happen?
an APC stalwart and a PDP
no wonder.
backer, but I've always said that we had the choice of two bad eggs. You know, when you have a choice of two bad eggs, who are you going to choose? You choose the least worst of them all.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And I'm saying that what needs to happen now is that when the next elections, before the next election comes, we need to have a proper choice of people that everybody can be proud of. So that when you see the two candidates, whoever wins, you're going to say, I can be proud of that person. As it stands now, some people will not be proud if it was Atiku, others will not be proud if it was Buhari. Okay. So at the end of the day, Buhari won because he's Mr. Integrity. But the leadership of tomorrow needs to go beyond integrity.
You still of that opinion?
Integrity, indeed.
To be honest with you, I still believe that he is Mr. Integrity. But when you are in the stage of corruption that we are in Nigeria, it takes a yeoman's job and a mountain to overcome the amount of corruption that is in the system, whether it's the civil service, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's the legislature, whether it's the executive. Okay, it's really bad.
To me, if I said during the program, I mentioned that one thing we must commend this government for is the closure of the border. This should have done, should have been done.
I have my reservations on
30. That. Yes, you have your opinion. We're going to visit this next week. Yeah. So this should have been done like 30 years ago, because all the jobs and finances that should improve the GDP of Nigeria has been going to all the mushroom nations around us. And of course, we've been building and equipping factories for foreigners in Asia. But with the closure of the border, we are improving our rice industries, vegetable industries. Nigerians are getting employed. And of course, it's only a matter of time. Things might be hard now, but things would turn around. Is President Muhammadu Buhari getting it right in his second term? This is what we're going to discuss next week with my esteemed guest. So thank you very much for watching. My name remains Rose Peter Graham. And this opportunity, I must say thank you very much to my crew members, Uche and Ugo. Thank you very much. And of course to Popular Camera Hair and Beauty Limited, who have been our amazing supporter. Thank you very much. And they have lots of packages this Christmas. So be on the lookout. So thank you very much, Mr. Femi, of the Nigerian Institute, and of course, Mr. Fatai Ogun Ribido, a journalist and a political analyst. You have to believe in Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming on the show. So that's it. Bye-bye from me. My name remains Rose Peter Graham. Take care. Bye.